Hello, welcome. Another episode of A Podcast. Your host, Stephen Maxted, and today we have Mike Todasco on here. We have a thing listed under your headline here, Mike, but I don't even know if that's really going to do it justice. So, visiting fellow AI center from SDSU, and that's San Diego State University.
Yeah.
Hopefully I got that right for the acronym here.
You got it.
But yeah, we're just chatting for a minute before. You have a very rich history in different parts of, I'll say, corporate America, blanket side of things here. And in terms of different experiences, I'm excited to chat about AI and a few other things that you're doing on that end of things. So thanks for making time to be on the podcast today. And I know that you like to get out there and have good conversations. So we're excited to have you on.
No, thanks, Stephen, for having me. I'm excited to chat about this. And yeah, I still don't even understand what I do with my title. So yes, like we can talk about
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we won't rename it. We'll leave it as is here. It's good. It's ambiguous. It keeps the listener guessing and interested on what's this Mike guy all about. So you know what? Why don't Mike, I'll pass over to you. And again, thanks for making time to be on today.
Sure.
We recently connected on LinkedIn, and what a great tool that is to network and get connected. It's super interesting to have that, and the way that we are set up with our podcast to be connected easily internationally and record virtually like this. So why don't you give the listener a little background on your story and where you've been, what you've been up to?
Sure. 60 seconds version. I started off as an accountant way back in the day. I moved from GE, the biggest company in the world, to a paper company, like literally like Dunder Mifflin style paper company, and was doing that for years, doing strategy and M&A work there. I moved to California. I was in the Ohio before that. So I moved to California. At that time, I went back to school to get an MBA and started my own business and a marketplace for comic book artwork, and did that for a couple of years. It was my theory back in 2009 was eBay didn't serve niche collectors well enough, and I wanted to kind of experiment with like what an individual collector's marketplace would look like. Did that, failed miserably in many ways building that thing, but learned a lot. Got a job at PayPal, where I was at for 11 years. The first half in products, the second half running innovation for the company. And I left PayPal about 2 years ago, and I'm now very much in the world of AI and a visiting fellow at San Diego State, whatever the hell that means.
Awesome. That's fantastic. You know what? I think it's super interesting to chat about, maybe not to call it a failure, but something you just mentioned there about like a venture maybe less successful than others. So what happened with that venture in terms of comic? It seems so niche, the way that you're mentioning that. And I love things that can be really niche because often you can really hit, so to say, success by being so niche. Like our podcast is pretty broad topics, and we have such a mix of folks on, high performing folks in athletics and business. But what happened there? What was the learning that you took away?
The learning was like I was vastly unprepared for any of this, and like if there was any out other than failure, like it was just impossible to do anything but fail. But I learned so much. Like I grew more in that than any other 2-year period of my life. And I'm going to include birth in that just for the heck of it. So 0 to 2 didn't even grow this much. Like it was crazy. No, the whole idea came from me as a kid. I collected comic books back in the 1990s. They were very popular. I liked Green Lantern, and I liked this one character. And one time I was at a convention, and I saw an original hand-drawn piece of artwork of that character. And the unique thing about comic books at the time, every page of every comic you've ever seen was drawn by somebody. It was drawn by a human being. And there's only one of those copies, even though there are potentially millions of those comics in existence. I became an adult. I had some money, and somehow it just occurred to me. I'm like, oh, I should buy that. I went on eBay, and I'm like, oh, I can't find it on eBay. I'm like, well, where I can find it somewhere else. And I realized there is a real problem when there is only one of something in the world. It makes it really darn hard to find it. I mean, if you think about most of the most valuable things, collectibles or whatever, yes, like there's the Mona Lisa, but you know where that is, and all this other kind of stuff. Like, but when there's only one of something, and there's millions of these different types of some things, eBay doesn't work and all that. So I built a business plan back when you would do business plans. I was doing this actually as part of my MBA that I was taking at the time. And the thought was, if I can make it work in this one thing, Then I could make it work for shoes. Then I could make it work for collectible watches and pens. And they were all in the business plan and all that. But I just knew this
Right.
artwork best. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
at least start with where I own, with what I know. Built this out. It was called Sketch Maven. Launched it with like a big magazine ad because that's what you would do in 2009. It was a website. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was just a constant struggle of, oh my God, like the site is getting hacked. Oh my God, I'm accepting payments, but I don't even have a secure credit card checkout. Like just problem after problem after problem. Like,
Right.
like people wanting to get paid, all this other kind of stuff. And it was just me doing this, me with a bunch of like people I hired from Upwork and stuff like that. It's an amazing experience. But again, did that for 2 years, was exhausted. And then I was like, well, I had my first child. And I'm like, I probably need to get a job where it's actually positive money, not negative money. And that's what brought me to PayPal. My plan at PayPal was I was going to be there for a year. It was going to be my rebound job. And I was there for 11.
Interesting. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm maybe much the same as you mentioned. I haven't taken
Yeah.
an MBA, but I took a university degree, and it's I had this theory along with like starting some of the businesses that only in the last handful of years really went full in on out of the corporate world. But I had this theory that I'd learn more just by doing versus trying to go
Yes.
sit down and learn. And it sounds like you may have had a similar experience from taking an MBA. Not to take away from the program, I think there's lots of really great MBA programs out there, but it's really
Yeah.
hard to, until you're in it. And even like a lot of, well, it sounds like you were both hiring people and figuring out, who's best to work with in terms of vendors and other people in this business space. So
I was learning how to write press releases because I didn't want to pay somebody $50 an hour to do that. And, all this crazy stuff you just learn how to do just out of necessity. Because when you're running a business and you're all by yourself, if you don't do it, it don't get done. And that's just like that's just the reality of that. To take what you just said, Steve, and apply that to kind of current day world, I get asked all the time. And again, I teach AI classes. I do things like that. And people say to me, well, what class should I take to learn about generative AI? And my answer always to them is like, you don't need to take a class. You don't need to spend money to have me teach you or anybody else teach you about that. Just go do it. Like literally log into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else and just do it. This is, exactly your example here of like the best way to learn about something is just doing it. And, what we're experiencing with generative AI is like the prime example. Like, don't take a class. Don't use any of those excuses. Like literally just log in, put it on your phone, put it on your laptop and just do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to a very basic way of learning, whether it be, woodworking, very hands-on. I'll just use that as an example, but there's obviously some risk maybe along with using power tools in this sense, but being hands-on and have it being done in a safe way where you're not chopping off fingers, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned there in terms of cutting different like angles of wood, quite prehistoric to AI in a way, but getting involved in just doing that stuff. There's certain lessons that you're going to remember from things that you messed up on that are unteachable or unlearnable, if that's proper English, in many ways until you've actually done them, right? Like different things like making like 245 cuts to make your 90 or whatever that actual angle is, because I think it's like 42.5 that actually needs to be on each angle because of how the wood meets up. It's not actually 45 and yada yada yada. So there's little nuances to everything that you only learn by doing, which I think is so valuable in business, right? You're not going to know until you get in there.
Yeah, Stephen, absolutely. This is how humans learn. I mean, we can be told stories of the 1970s at a time where there was like super high inflation and all that. And honestly, for my life until very recently, I never experienced inflation. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know about that. Yeah, I guess it seemed bad. I could read a history book. But until you actually live through these things, like that's the only way for us to learn. I got little kids. And they're not so little anymore. They're 11 and 13. But like, I can tell them, hey, don't do this. Don't do this. Oh, I did this. I could tell them a story about it. But so many things in life, they just have to experience it, make their own mistakes, and that's how they learn. I wish human beings weren't wired this way. I wish we could just read books. I wish we could just do that or whatever. But like, that's not how we evolved. That's not how we would have
Right.
learned through our species over time. We didn't have reading. We didn't have all these things for, tens of thousands of years of our initial existence. So like we learn by doing. And like that
Yeah.
is not something that we can change.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Now, with like, I mean, okay, so you're at PayPal for a bit. You
Yeah.
weren't now, and something that you mentioned, before getting on the episode, when we were catching up, was you were there at a pretty interesting time where the mobile side of things was just taking off. And so maybe walk through what that was like at that time, because I can kind of remember that timing in my own journey of life and different jobs and stuff I was doing, and that was in '09, right? You mentioned, I think,
2011 is
or
actually when I
2011.
started.
Okay.
But even in 2011, it's funny. Like, sorry, I'll let you finish your question and then I'll
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Go, no, dive in. Let's
Um,
go, Mike.
so even in 2011, I was like, I felt that was late. I'm like, well,
Right.
we're late to the mobile game, aren't we? Like, it's 2011. It's all been done and all that. Like, the iPhone was like 4 years ago or what? I mean, like, come on. Like, we're late to this. And it's so funny. So I got there, and one of the things that I saw, like, within my first week is we had a presentation of our 2010 mobile transaction volume versus like our 2014 or something like that, some crazy 5-year projection. We did less than $1 billion in 2010. It was like $750 million of transactions 2010 on mobile devices. And I remember we were forecasting something like 40 million, $50 million in 2014. And I remember at the time in 2011, I'm like, that's just stupid. There's no way we're going to do that. Like, yes, we're growing. Yes, I'm seeing this, all this other kind of stuff, but like, that's just insane.
Yeah.
Fast forward to actual 2014 when I'm still at the company and it's no longer a mobile team. It's just part of the business now. Like
Right.
PayPal surpassed that. Like all these crazy projections that I even thought we were making, where we were like as a team, like, are we really going to do this? No way. Like it exceeded all that. Mobile was
Interesting.
still in its infancy in so many ways at that time. I mean, we were building, we were building an app on Windows Phone. I mean, to just kind of put that in perspective. So, frankly, paying companies like PayPal to develop apps for Windows for them at that time. I
Interesting.
think we were talking with the Nokia, was it Symbian or whatever, folks? It was before Microsoft actually bought Nokia. Like, it wasn't even clear that iPhone and Android was going to be this duopoly. Like, there was still a lot in the world of BlackBerry and all that at that time.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know that it was going to just be like the standard, and that it no
Yeah.
longer was going to be like weird mobile team. Then there's the rest of the company. It was like, oh yeah, just everything needs to be mobile first. And that's what effectively every company needs to do.
That's so interesting. And especially, I mean, we'll jump back to the present day, but to just think about the evolution of that on its own, and you kind of
Yeah.
witnessing that being like, oh, it's a little bit behind the times. Forecasts are a little off in terms of it being way bigger deal. And I mean, like everything is done or can be done on a mobile device. In fact, if it can't be done on there, then that's kind of more like the leader now, right? It's like, hey,
Yes.
it's got to be on this like app or this system. This
Yeah.
website needs to be mobile friendly in terms of how it's set up. It's no longer a maybe, it's a must. And then you still have to take care of your back end and be user friendly on the computer, because there's still people using laptops or desktops, whatever they have
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's interesting to hear that. I mean, you've probably experienced just a giant changes, as have I too. I mean, from the original phones that we carried around that had batteries that lasted a substantially longer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And
have
we're
very
wrong
little
direction
function.
for that. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and now everything's kind of gone that way. And then you fast forward to modern day with what you're doing now in AI, and obviously that's kind of a hot word. I think a lot of people are able to say it but not understand it, if that makes sense as a comment. But
Yeah.
they'll say like AI, like, oh, AI is going to take over or whatever. But a lot of people I don't think have actually touched and used a lot of it. That's part of the reason I was most excited. We were talking about before about, hey, like understanding like what's out there. We've had a couple folks talk about AI, and it's something that we use on a few different softwares, even for the podcast, in terms of like helping us edit, using ChatGPT to help create brand voices for different things, and some different areas that we spend time in. We find it incredibly useful. Some people find it incredibly intimidating and like it's going to steal their job and stuff. What part of AI are you most focused on teaching folks today? I know we mentioned, it's easier to go try it out to learn it and stuff. But what part of it are you involved in today, or what's your take on, the AI?
So when I'm teaching folks about it and talking to folks like your audience about this, Stephen, I think the biggest opportunity for folks is to just kind of put things out there and just try everything. That's the honest answer. Because
Yeah.
you are going, if you try everything and just spend some time with it, like spend 30 minutes with these different tools and really start to go deep with them, you're going to start to see what is most useful for you, what is not.
Right.
For example, one of the things I love, ChatGPT has this mode called advanced voice. It's very conversational. I will go around. I actually have the Meta glasses, which kind of like let me talk through my sunglasses to my phone, which is sitting in my
Okay.
pocket. And I will have full on conversations with my AI. I literally just walked to the grocery store,
Yeah.
was talking to it about some medical questions and things like that. And just like asking about data and just going deeper. And there's things I'm curious about. I'll use it in the car with my kids. We're driving to school. Also, my kid says, "Oh, they have a quiz and it's on biology." I'm like, "Hey, can you, talk to us about photosynthesis and quiz my kids on this and make every question a little bit harder?" Boom! It just starts doing that, and it'll do that like in the car ride to school or whatever it
Interesting.
might be. Uh,
Yeah.
this is, and my favorite way to do it, just to throw one more out there. My favorite way
Yeah.
is I just sometimes just talk to it. I love going for walks. So I'll have my sunglasses on. I'm going for a walk, and you can do this with earbuds or anything else. You can just
Yeah.
talk to it. It's going to capture everything you say. If you have a question, it will answer that. You can have a conversation back and forth. And at the end of this, you're like, "Hey, can you give me the to-dos from this? Can you give me like or the summary from this?" Or I've done it for like book ideas. Like, "Hey, can you like summarize everything I said for the story idea and like make it into something packageable that I could like write up a little bit later?" And it will do that. I mean, these things for $20 a month, they're like the world's greatest assistant that you could just have on call 24/7. And that's just one feature. There's a whole bunch of other features. And that's just one that I've gravitated to. I use a lot of other
Yeah.
ones. But what I tell folks is just try. Try it.
Mhm.
Commit 1 month to spending $20 to get like the full features or something and spend it. Make it your default in your browser. Make it the first thing you see on your home screen. Don't do a Google search, do a Perplexity search or use ChatGPT instead or whatever it might be. Just make that your default and you're going to start to see and you're going to start to realize, oh my gosh, this allows me to do things I never thought I could do otherwise. And like that is just next level. And here's the great thing. We're still early in this thing. 99% of people are not doing that. So if you're
Right.
people doing that, you get to work more effectively, faster, whatever. Or just use, I mean, I just got back from a trip to Hawaii and it was all largely all planned by AI. And it was awesome. Like it really was. And I hate planning vacations, but I love experiencing them and having the AI do it made my life so much better. So like, again and again and again, these are all
Yeah. Well, I think the interesting part within this too, it's become kind of almost like a new age search engine,
yeah.
for a lot of stuff. I know I've asked that. I don't talk to mine yet, but I have heard of people doing this, and it's something I've been meaning to do. Like,
Yeah.
so you're not. That's pretty cool. You're already on that path, and I mean, obviously, it's an area that you're very passionate about. You spend a lot of time in, but there's yeah, we use it like within our team, and the way that we look at it, it makes a couple of roles anyways within the team, but everyone uses a little bit of AI tools on the team for the marketing side of stuff that we do, but like it makes them more like a 3x productivity
Yeah.
versus it looking at it any other way. I think a lot of the scare is it's going to take away from jobs and stuff like that, but it's more like an efficiency thing. It's a tool that can help enhance and make things so much better. So I think it's good to talk about it a little bit more in terms of like it shouldn't be feared. It should be, try to understand it,
Yeah.
instead of it being approached as like the evil that may exist. I don't think it's perfect. It probably takes away a little bit of creativity in some ways, but the whole point of using it is just like, I'm not a very good writer. I'm a little dyslexic, can't
Yeah.
spell because words just mingle together. That's kind of part of the reason I asked even how to pronounce your last name there, because I might have just jumped a few letters and
You did
jumbled them up
perfect.
in my own head. So We joke about it, but I openly say to people, I remember yeah, it's pretty extreme sometimes. Won't even go
Well, if
there.
I could comment though
But
on that, Stephen, the only thing I would say is like I actually do think AI is going to make people more creative. And let me give an example of
sure.
just what I had very recently.
Yeah.
Uh, my friends and I, when we grew up, had an inside joke about February 18th. Long story, but like this is something that I'm 47 now, and it carries on to this day
So
from
yesterday.
my high school days and something 30 years later. So
Okay.
on February 18th, we will text each other. And this year, we just started to send each other AI generated images of people in February 18th parades. Like, obviously, there are no parades for 218 or anything like that that exist in the world, but
Right.
we could text that. And like, it was cool because we could actually kind of like one up each other back and forth. And like, it was actually a way to be able to express ourselves just
Interesting.
over our phones in a very different, and I would actually say like a very much more creative way than we would have been able to do otherwise. And like there are all of these different tools. When another one, and I'm going to give you just another friend example. Another one that
Yeah.
came out was it's called Udio. And what Udio is, it's like audio without the A at the front. It
Okay.
allows you to make songs, and you could write songs with your own lyrics. You can write, maybe you like to rap, but you want to hear your lyrics in a blues style song or whatever it is. And like you put that in there and it will generate a song in seconds, and you can then share that around. I remember when that first came out, all I was doing that weekend was just sending like songs to friends. And like it was the
Yeah.
greatest thing
Yeah.
ever to be able to share all these things. And like so I see what you're saying about creativity. I think it will limit in some ways, but I think overall
Yeah.
what it's going to do is open all these other possibilities. I
And
made
yeah.
and actually for school, I made a little baseball documentary just for various reasons. And I actually got to put a theme song in there. Like this was just a little student project that I
Yeah.
was basically working on, but I got to put in my own theme song using that Udio tool in that, and like how cool is that? Like it just ups everybody's game by able to to have all these tools.
No, you're definitely right. I'm actually just thinking back and reflecting as I make that comment, but at the same time, like I had this pretty severe man cold. Um, More of a common phrase probably up in Canada here than from down
A
further
man
north.
cold?
Man
Wait,
cold,
what?
yeah, it's more extreme than a regular cold. You're just it's an ongoing joke probably up here. I don't know how
Okay,
often
I don't
that's
know
mentioned
man
down there.
colds. Now I
Okay,
do. No.
well, having like a man cold, yeah, cold or fluke, kind of energy around that. But and it fell on Valentine's Day, so just last week or whatever from the day that we're recording here. But I went to ChatGPT to write a poem about having a man cold, and it actually helped construct this like little
Yeah.
limerick around. It was probably 5 sets of 4 lines going down
Yeah.
on this thing, and it was pretty funny,
Yeah.
just listing off the different things. So yeah.
And here's the great thing I will say. Like I always point to, and it's always weird to say this for people who have seen the movie, but if you really pay attention to the movie, you might have a different perspective. If you
Yeah.
watch the movie Her, one of the most famous artificial intelligence movies out there. It's basically the part that everyone remembers is there is a character, Joaquin Phoenix, falls in love with Scarlett Johansson, and who is an AI. And at the end, Scarlett Johansson gets bored with him and like, falls out of love because, all this other kind of stuff.
Right.
But in the movie, everybody's job in that movie is super creative. Joaquin Phoenix's job, he is actually writing greeting cards, like writing them, but the handwriting part, he's just dictating them. It's being handwritten by a computer, it's being printed out, and all this other kind of stuff. Like all of that stuff, all the boring stuff is being done by a computer.
Right.
Amy Adams' characters making documentary films. Like everybody has a creative job in that. And
Right.
I think the cool thing about AI is it will, if you really like writing poems, then you should continue to write poems. And like that's the exciting thing. You should be like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Yeah, an AI can do it, but you know what? This is me. This is special. This is my own
Right.
thing. But I'm gonna use all this stuff to help me out as part of it. Like this is just gonna help us be more of what we already are, is really what I believe and kind of how I think about that. So all the other things that you couldn't even do before, it's going to enable you to do now. but the things that are core, that you love, that are creative, whatever it might be, like
Right.
those are the things that we're still going to hold dear.
I think you could be right on that, right? I mean, like you said, like we're early stage on this thing. I mean, look at how far people, you know, use and valued like Google. And years ago, that was barely, we didn't have 20 pages of stuff. I mean, most people don't look past the first page anyways, but
No,
it
right.
used to be 5 pages of information, almost like an advanced, like yellow pages or phone book style thing. That's what we call them up here. I don't know, there's different verbiage for it, but
Yeah, no, we got
um,
we know that too. We know.
you know the yellow pages. Okay, I don't know. You
We
never know.
got
Maybe
yellow
there's little,
pages.
maybe
We
there's
don't really
little,
see the yellow pages anymore, but we know the
right?
concept. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I mean, it used to be kind of like that, but now we're like kind of a new era of tech in that way. Yeah, I can agree with you there. Maybe we are early on, and hopefully it's just enhanced. I mean, that's kind of the way that we use it, but I know there's lots of stigmas around it in general, and it might take some time for people to truly accept
Yeah.
like using it, but it's a very
Yeah.
effective tool.
And look, I don't want to be
Overall.
dismissive and say there isn't going to be disruption. When we went to an
Right,
agricultural to an industrial society, there was huge disruption. You went from
right,
the United States, like 90% of people were employed in agriculture to like 1% of people employed in agriculture today. Like our
right.
society is vastly different. And in almost every single metric, we are better off today than we were before that.
Yeah,
But for the people along that journey, it was totally disruptive. Like if you were in that field, if you were doing whatever that might be, like, yes, it was very disruptive, that whole process. We're going to go through something similar here. And I do not want to dismiss that. People will lose jobs. Like that is going to happen. People are going to find
yeah,
other things. Our economy 15 years from now, our global economy is going to look very different than what it looks like today. I think that's pretty certain. What that's going to look like, I have no idea, but it's going to look different.
yeah,
But it's going to take some time to shake out and for everyone to figure out, okay, like where is this? Do we have universal basic income? Do we have like what is it that we need as a society to support this? Because maybe there are less jobs or maybe there's just less hours. That's something I've written about a lot. Like, I mean, we
interesting.
have
Yeah,
used productivity gains mostly in the US to increase our wealth. Could we use potential productivity gains to actually decrease hours worked? We have more free time than we've ever had as a society. Like, I know
yeah,
people are always like, well, we're so busy, whatever, but like really when you get down to actual working hours,
yeah,
it's not as much. Like back in the day, you just worked. You worked on the farm. You worked all day on the farm. That was all that you did. The concept of leisure time, the concept of listening to music didn't exist till 120
right.
years ago and all that. So anyway, yeah, I'm going on a
Yeah.
total tangent.
No. This is great. No. I'm here for it, Mike. There's
Yeah,
no, I think I mean, yeah, it's very interesting to hear. Like you're totally right through like our last giant adjustment historically. Um, yeah, as a society. And then you become way more efficient, like
yeah.
as far as when you can get stuff done. I mean, it's one of the advantages of some of the ways that we approach some of this work, but maybe you have more time to spend on hopefully, like, I mean, this is like a personal push because I'm
Yeah.
pretty passionate about fitness and stuff on my end of things. And it's just like being more active, like everyone makes a choice every day. And if everyone kind of walked around 5K, we'd probably be a lot healthier in terms of an average on society. But we can't really force
Absolutely.
people to do that, right? So
We'd be healthier. We'd be happier. No, I'm totally on board with that. I am totally
yeah,
on board. I try and do, as much as I can, 15, 20,000 steps a day. I live in California. I can appreciate, I like being outside. I like to move around and all that. And I feel better when I do. And I feel worse when I don't. And I think that's probably true
yes,
for a lot of people, but not a lot of people have the flexibility to do that. But if you can have an AI or a fleet of AIs doing all of these things that are part of your job and you're the one kind of managing that process and taking responsibility over that, well,
yeah.
that can kind of change how we work. And that's the kind of stuff I'm excited to see how it transforms.
Yeah, me too. I think we'd be very much on the same page as far as that goes, because it'd be awesome to invest in different AI tools that can help us even be more efficient than we already are. Because I already feel like I mentioned, like some of these tools, like in terms of like video editing, even writing ChatGPT. Let's use that for example, like helping you create different like maybe just in case someone doesn't know. I'm just going to go down this like little story sharing here in terms of like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, but you can kind of write out a entire brand voice and what kind of tone you want that thing, whatever you're writing, to sound like, and it'll
Mhm.
emulate that throughout what you've written out there. I think it's just worth mentioning because I think on some base level, like some folks don't know even that much. So it can help you write different things such as emails. I know it's a thing that, I hadn't been as well versed in when I was first starting to use these tools. And a friend of mine was like, hey man, like use this to help you write emails. If it's, a difficult subject to breach, whatever it is, like use ChatGPT to help take out the tone of, negative energy. If it's something that you're,
Yeah.
you don't have to put in the per my last email,
Yeah.
verbiage. You can use something a little, more tactful in a sense, and let ChatGPT, help you write that.
Yeah.
So super helpful, comment from that person locally here in Winnipeg,
It,
a friend in the tech scene. And it's kind of interesting to hear that, because you're right. Then you could totally use more time to, do other things. And, Mike, something we were talking about before, I got to bring this up without putting you on the spot, because I know you just got into it and you know where this is going maybe. But so you're a pretty active guy, obviously, just talking about how much you're walking and stuff, but something new that you tried out, and I didn't know about this until we got on here, but it's called Catalyst. Starts with a K. It looks very futuristic, and for listener, if you don't know what this is, I didn't either, but it's like a suit that you wear that offers a different form of resistance. It's hooked up to software somehow, and you're going through either a thing on an iPad or a TV screen, where through an app, and you're doing motions basically it's doing resistance somehow on the suit.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like electrical something, EMS stimulation. I forgot what it is exactly or something, but yeah. And look, to be very clear, I've only used it twice, so I'm very new to it, and I'm of course not paid by the company. I paid them a boatload of money to get one of these. I'm like, oh, is this a new thing? And I will just say, so yeah, you put on this suit, you got to like wet it down basically, and you're put on this thing, and then you're kind of doing different exercises, low resistance. You're not using any weights, but just putting your arms over your head, like for doing like a press or something like that. It's like it's stressful. you can feel that on your body, and it's so funny. After the first time I did it, like I actually felt like it felt like my under muscles were hurting, if that makes any sense. Like usually it's like maybe like the top, and I was like, oh my god, that's deep. I literally could feel like that. But anyway, I mean, look, there's a whole bunch. I use AI for fitness stuff all the time. What I actually do is I have a custom GPT. So you can do this in ChatGPT. You can make your own little trained GPT for yourself and not share it with anyone. I uploaded all my blood tests, and I paid for a bunch of blood tests. I got an MRI, I got a DEXA scan, and I put in my goals and all this other stuff, and habits and what I eat and supplements, all this stuff, and I just throw it into this thing, and then I just ask questions, and I say like, hey. Should I be adding bone broth to my diet? What's that going to do in effect with my goals and what I'm already eating, or whatever it might be? Like I could ask all of these types of questions to that, or I'll take a picture and I'm like, hey, I got this thing on my leg. Any thoughts there? And the great thing about, and again, preface, not medical advice. I'm not a doctor, so kind of for anybody out there, but like for a first pass on all of these things, it's awesome to have that. I mean, it's awesome to just kind of know at 3 a.m. I could just, if I'm like, oh boy, this is really bothering me, I got to ask it a question about this, and it has all that data and information in there. And this is me kind of doing a makeshift version of that. Imagine we actually get to the point where like models are built for this and integrated with the hospital system and all that. Like I do believe in like 5 years, it'll be medical malpractice for doctors to not use AI in their practices. Like I think in the US, at least, I'm sure Canada is similar in some way. Like I see my doctor for maybe 25 minutes a year or something like that. And I don't know how many other patients, like probably hundreds, if not thousands of patients. My doctor doesn't know me. I mean, kind of, or something. Like, I mean, he reads my chart and all that, but like he can't process that. He doesn't know what my LDL levels were 9 years ago or whatever like that. But in AI, it can be infinitely smart with that. It can have all this information. And if a doctor had that in the practice with them to take notes, to do this, to do all these other things as like a second set of eyes, basically to build that relationship, it's going to be so much more effective. So I really, those are the kind of things that's really, really excite me with AI.
I've heard comments made in the medical industry where some folks that were specifically trained in one area have actually left it to go work on something different because they already see the future of technology kind of absorbing parts of their role, where they just don't feel like in the future it'll be as yeah, stimulating in a way. And that's a very neutral comment, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to use names on this
Yeah,
one topic. Hopefully we have this
yeah,
person on the podcast one day, but they're doing some really cool research in a specific area that's probably not
yeah,
going to get touched in the same way by technology, but they're already, these are very smart people that are, seeing opportunities kind of, in areas where, AI will be helpful for a lot of folks. And I would definitely be up for having that help, because you're right. Like, how often are you stopping in and seeing your doc, even if you do? A lot of people
yeah.
don't even have a family doctor, or that's a bit of a struggle for
Exactly. You're,
getting
you're
in
you're
to see that.
traveling. You don't have one. You can't afford one. You don't have access to one. Like
Yeah,
having a doctor at your beck and call is a luxury. And there aren't enough
yeah,
doctors around in the world to be able to do that. So be able to have an AI fill in the
yeah.
gaps is huge. The one thing I will point out, so if you go back to 2016, Jeffrey
Hmm.
Hinton, who's kind of known as one of the godfathers of AI, he's won Nobel Prize recently in the last few years, I believe, for the work, some of the work that he has done. Um, he was saying up in Berkeley, I believe, at an event, this is on YouTube, anybody can find it, of how radiologists are going to be
Cool.
out of jobs in 5 years. And I
Yeah,
remember in 2016, that was very like common wisdom. Like, and he almost laughed about it. He's like, whatever you do, you never want to send your kid to be a radiologist. Fast forward to 5 years later and where we're at today, there are more radiologists in the US than there were in 2016 when he made that quote. And on top of that, the radiologists use more FDA approved AI software by far than any other field. Now, I'm not saying
interesting.
everything is going to be like that. So, like, one thing is like, whether it's me, whether it's a Nobel Prize winner, whether it's whoever, like, we don't know what the future is. We can make guesses, but like, we have no
Totally.
idea. But when you kind of look back at history, at least that was one example where it was like, oh, yeah, radiologists, they're done. AI is going to do it better. No, it's radiologists plus AI using these tools in a more effective way is actually enabling much more better turnaround time for scanning results, much more accurate. I mean,
Right.
it has revolutionized their profession as part of it. And there's still jobs there. Is every job going to
Right.
be like that? Probably not. But like, I hope that becomes much more of the template going forward.
Yeah, and that would be great. I think if anything, it's just going to require more smart people, more people
Yeah.
with education in specific areas, I guess, ultimately, and maybe not,
Yeah.
to be able to manage these tools, right? Because people still have to have the education and backing there to be able to manage these and understand what's going on in their field, right? And it can't just be
Yeah.
100%, robot. Like, because I think some people wander to. Have you seen the TV show? This is a weird thing to throw out here, but it was Black Mirror a few years
Oh,
ago.
of course. Of course
Yeah.
I've seen Black
Okay.
Mirror.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. I'm glad that you
Good
have.
show.
You didn't really preface this question at all, but the topic in general is kind of like we mentioned in movies. And I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
like, there was I feel like they were starting to kind of allude to like AI and the direction of different things
Sure.
there was one episode I remember in particular, kind of was like the whole thing was actually a simulation that, it was like a dating app or something, kind of used like an AI tool to simulate different lengths of time spent with someone
Yes.
and just make all these assumptions. And that was like one of them. But then there was also like, episodes with like AI, like kind of like robots kind of thing. That's more where I'm
Yeah.
headed with this one. But like, I have little tools in my house that I use already that are fantastic for helping keep the house tidy and clean. And most of the house is a hardwood floor base. I have a Zumba or Roomba, whatever Roomba. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Zumba's a fitness class.
Yeah.
Roomba.
It's not going to clean your floor at all. In fact, it's
Right.
probably going to make it much more messy. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's doing its thing. It's scheduled at a certain time every day to go out. The odd time I'll fire it up and put it on, like, the base or the lower level of the house and have it cleaned down there. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's other use cases where I'm like, hey, like, it would be sweet if there was other versions of this tool to help keep maintenance, in the house, like, tidy or clean, or, up here we have snow removal and stuff, different things like that. I think that there's like just a great opportunity to take away like a lot of those tasks and use tech to like
Oh,
not do that, like that's got to happen.
yeah.
I don't really
I mean,
love cutting my grass anymore.
oh, so actually, okay, two things. I mean, yes, machines in the house have been, I think back in 2003 is when I got married, and on my wedding registry in 2003, I had a Roomba on there, and actually my coworkers got me one
Interesting.
in 2003, and The one sad thing I will say is 21 years later, I don't know if it's that much better than it was in 2003. Like that has not gone nearly as well as what we hope. But like, many
Well,
things in the household, the washing machine, for example, is one of
yeah,
like the great innovations that opened up so much more than, not having to have, it opened up
totally.
things for women who are often, especially back in the 50s and 60s, were the people who were doing the housework and so forth. To be able to have a machine do this work would save a woman 20, 30 minutes a day. And what does that then lead to? And then
Totally.
something to wash the
Right.
clothes and all this other stuff. And then like, oh, I can go out and actually get a job, or like, my gosh, now it's even my dumb husband can do it or whatever. Like, all that kind of stuff. Like, yes, like those
Yes.
are the things that we need more of. And I think you are going to see more of those in the house. Stephen,
Yeah.
and in fact, I was living back in Ohio. This is when we were first married. Back in 2008, I actually had a robot lawnmower. It was from a company called Friendly Robotics. And again, this was 21 years ago. What you would do is you would actually put down an electric fence in your yard, and then it
Okay.
looked like a Roomba. It was this big, it was heavy. I
Interesting.
mean, the thing must weigh like 150 pounds. It had like 3 blades underneath, and it would just basically go. And whenever it hit the electric fence, it would go
It
or
would
that.
bounce. Yeah, yeah.
And it had a remote. So if like you needed to get a spot, like you could like remote
You go
control it.
back.
Like, and I was like, oh, we're living in the future. Everybody's going to do this. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, so 21 years later, I haven't seen a damn electric lawnmower anywhere over the last 20 years. Even though like technology, all this
Right.
stuff is so much better today. It's fascinating how this goes. Like, if you would have told me that, like, I would have assumed everyone would have had it because I had it in 2003, 2004. Of course, everyone
Right.
else have it in the future, but you never know how these things pan out.
Well, yeah, trends, and it just takes time for the tech and
Yeah,
safety to be there. I mean, I have seen there's someone like some rural properties out here where I've seen them, and I assume that they're kind of solar powered because they're in the middle of the yard. Like when I've driven by this one acreage or whatever, where I've seen a pair
yeah,
of them just kind of stalled out, and I'm like, I guess they're done, or they ran out of juice or whatever happened. But I was just in London a couple months ago, and they actually had versions of like robot grass cutting things on the side of this one lawn inside of like a courtyard tour thing that we were on. And so I have recently witnessed these things kind of more in like use cases where, great, okay, now no, someone has to go and check and make sure that thing's like running, but they're not out there pushing a mower anymore, right? You
yeah,
can run maybe when guests aren't there, or maybe when they even are there, because it's not really disruptive. It doesn't block any
yeah,
views. No one's out there pushing the mower in terms of it being, I'm sure it's a little bit quieter as well. I think these things are electric or charged, and that
yeah.
doesn't come with the same kind of noise that a gas one would have. So it's kind of interesting to think about, like, where these like robots or tools going to go. And I mean, I'm a big fan of it. It's neat that you've had them for that length of time before that they were
Yeah, it's
really known.
totally. And look, it's exciting. And I think just, if you are, if you're an entrepreneur and or a hopeful entrepreneur and you hear this, maybe you're like, well, God, I could, like, all the pieces to build this electric lawnmower are there. Like, if you want to start your
Yeah.
own electric robotic lawnmower company, you can actually do that. And the thing is, AI is going to open up a lot of possibilities to enable somebody who's watching this right now to actually say, oh, I guess I could do that. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. Um,
Right.
Sam Altman has said, and again, this is marketing, as you know well, but like, so you have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But he's saying that, the AIs that they already have inside of OpenAI are something like the 75th greatest coder in the world on kind of coding benchmarks, and he says by the end of the year, they'll be the best coder in the world. Like, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah. Yeah.
true, but I think it's at least directional. Maybe it's not by the
Yeah.
end of this year. It probably will be in a year. So like, theoretically, within a year or two, you could have access through an AI to the greatest software coder in the world, to an agent that's going to be able to negotiate for parts for, various vendors on AliExpress or Alibaba or something like that, to get the battery, to get all the components, to project manage this thing. And, somebody
Yeah.
could be spinning up their own robot lawnmower business just by running some stuff in ChatGPT and buying $1,000 worth of parts off of Alibaba. Like, those kind of things start to become possible. And that's why, like, in the future, I think you're going to see a lot more solo entrepreneurs with these little
You know,
businesses just because
yeah.
they're passionate about something and they can use an AI to kind of like do all of the things that, that frankly would have taken a lot of people in the past to do before.
Interesting. I think you bring up a really good point. It's almost like a bringing everything, wrapping it all up in a nice bundle of conversation
Cool.
here, because like it's
Yeah.
yeah, you're totally right. I mean, from where we're at today versus like where this is going to go, and then just having that deepened understanding of how to even utilize the tool, right? Just because it can do it doesn't mean that we'll, be clever enough to figure it out all the time. So I think it's good
Exactly.
that you guys are educating people on how to even utilize the tool like that. For those who are on the cutting edge of trying these things out, and it's going to lead to a lot of, yeah, hopefully success stories in terms of other, the future of things cycling. I think that there's going to be personally more successful small businesses in the future. I think we're going through a little bit of a cycle that way, but
I hope.
yeah, it's very cool. Mike,
Yeah.
what's a good way to follow your story, stay in touch? I know we connected on LinkedIn, but what's the
Yeah.
best handles and stuff to find you at?
No, thanks, Stephen. If folks, I have a blog on LinkedIn. It's free. All the stuff I have is free. I'm not really selling anything, but if you want to learn about AI stuff, I try and write in very plain terms. A lot of the things I talked about were things I've written about in the past. Just LinkedIn, Mike Todasco. I also post on Medium. It's the same content either place, but that's probably the best place to find me. And and you can always reach out and say hi. I'm trying to be friendly.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to include those links and everything
Cool.
that we produced here today upon launch and stuff below. So if you're listening, the link is below there for you. And just want to say thanks again, Mike, for making time to be on the show today.
No, this was super exciting. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.